Hello, Professor. We're Team 6. We're going to talk about the article Me and the Patriarchy and the Business School's Insights for Modern Leadership of the author Pothero. Uh, this article talk about like the action to dismantle the particle system. She speaks about all her experience in the academy and what happens with the men and how they behave indeed. We're gonna present in a way to show how we learn about different leadership traits and theories and how to relate it to the article. We're gonna talk about power and influence, personality traits, emotional intelligence, mentorship and leadership styles, AOR, and single and double loop learning. So next we're gonna sign up is gonna present us about power and influence.
Um, Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Santiago. So right now, I'm going to be talking about how power, influence, personality traits plays in Protero's case. Hodge et al. First of all, let us start by defining what power is. Hodge et al. 2021, the textbook, describe power as a capacity to produce an effect on others or to shape a particular outcome. It goes beyond the formal authority and leadership. It is about who gets to speak, who gets heard, whose ideas are valued. Similarly, in Protero's article, it showed us that power was distributed in a business school. The men had more power, while the women, like Protero, they struggled with being heard. This is referred to as a typical patriarchal setting. An occurrence described by her was when early in her career, she was paid less than a male colleague for the same job with the justification that there was an age difference in them. This shows how the structure of an organization can bring in inequality. And we can see that it is not just about the pay, but an implicit message is being passed that the men are being valued more than the women. Next slide, please. Similarly, and another situation was when Protero described having her emails search for conspiracy. It was used against her in meeting, and she was being coerced by colleagues. This creates a climate of surveillance and fear where people are afraid to speak up or even challenge authority. An analysis of this situation is that there is a form of coercive power which is being used, and it is mentioned in the textbook that where the threat of punishment, like let's say like disciplinary action or the loss of reputation, is used to control a particular person's behavior, then a coercive power is being used. Another scenario was when male students used intimidation or pressure influence tactics, such as standing over her or making implied threat just to undermine her authority. These acts are not just personal conflict, they're about using fear and threat or harm. Now, I would now be talking about how personality traits, how it relates to this case of Protero. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, let's move to the personality traits. There are two definitions of personality. One is that personality as a person's public reputation, that is how others sees a particular person. Why the other definition of personality is a person's identity. Research shows that there is a gap between these two, how a person sees themselves and how others sees themselves as well. In Protero's article, she was labeled as being difficult just because she was challenging the norms or asking for her legal rights. When she took on senior position, colleague questioned her qualification and called her defiant in meetings. These labels are not based on objective behavior, but on gendered expectation. Women who are assertive are considered as being problematic. But when a man is assertive, they see the man as being strong. It's like you're being too loud when you speak, and you're also being too quiet when you don't. Public opinion about a person's personality is subject to bias. In that case, I'll be using the Ocean model to assess Protero's personality. The Ocean model is a widely used tool for understanding personality traits. It's like a map, and in a patriarchal setting, some parts are blocked to certain travelers, obviously. So now let's use the Ocean model, which the first one is openness. Potero's willingness to challenge the norms and share her story reflect that she has high openness. This trait is usually undervalued in a patriarchal setting. Then for conscientiousness, her dedication to work and her dedication to work and her commitment to fairness demonstrate that she is highly conscientious. Extroversion, why she described herself as highly extroverted, her advocacy and public sharing of her experiences require the degree of an extroversion. So we can say that she is. Then her agreeableness. For being agreeable, she was scared, obviously. So, and she's trying as much as possible. She's challenging the norms. Then for the neuroticism, we have Protero's experience. She has this imposter syndrome and self-doubt, which could be seen as being related to neuroticism. But it is important to note that these feelings are response to our feeling excluded. We can see here how power shapes personality. There is a constant undermining and exclusion that Protero faced, and it led to her having self-doubt. In summary, I would say that Andreas Protero's article is not just a personal narrative, but a powerful critique of how power and personality, how they are gendered in leadership. By understanding these dynamics and by using frameworks like the Ocean model, we can begin to challenge the system that shapes leadership and create institutions that are truly inclusive and equitable. Thank you. Now, Manpreet is going to be talking about how emotional intelligence, how it applies to Protero's case. Thank you.
Thank you, Zainab. I'm going to talk about the emotional intelligence, like using this in the article. Firstly, I'm going to talk about like emotion intelligence means understanding your own emotion and other emotion also, and using that awareness to guide your action. In this article, we can see that she feels pressure like imposter syndrome and burnout, but she handle it very like in a very perfect way. She stay calm even in a toughest situation, and she help others, especially through a mentoring. She speak up for the fairness and inclusion, and she even turn her struggle into a positive change. So this is a emotional intelligence in action, especially a resilience when means staying strong under pressure. And next slide, please. So there is a model and framework of the emotional intelligence concept. Like Andrea Portia doesn't just talk about injustice; she manages her emotion under pressure and use them to create a change. Like she recognized her burnout imposter syndrome, saying she felt worthless and out of place. It is showing us self-awareness, which is related to the Goleman EI performance model. And the second one is the despite frustration, she continues to mentor women and speak up. It's showing us self regulation and relationship management. It is related to the Baron AI competency model, and she understands how others feel in the same system. It's showing the deep empathy and social fairness. And this is related to the Mayer AI ability model. She doesn't act out in the anger, but she turns her pain into a published leadership message, which is emotionally clarity and control. Next slide, please. Yeah. Like as we can now I'm going to talk about emotional intelligence in the workplace. In many organizations we can see that emotions are treated like a weakness point, but that's changing now. A good leader talk honestly about emotion like stress or failure, and he makes team member feel safe to share challenge with each other without any fear, any hesitation. And she listens actively and gives fair feedback to everyone. And the good leader uses emotion in decision making, not as a weakness but as a strength, which is a very good in for every good leader. Next slide, please. So how can we develop emotional intelligence in business school? And to build an emotional intelligent leader, schools need to add emotional intelligence into lesson, like not just a theory but role play, like using a case study, doing a practice on any related to the emotional intelligence article, case study. This is very best way to to develop emotional intelligence. And the second one is for encourage the self reflection, like a student to develop self awareness through journaling, feedback session and mentoring, in the school. A teacher can create a self awareness by if a student do a task, teacher should have to give a feedback in a positive way, which is very helpful to their to do the emotional intelligence, and it is a very good way. Third one is the use teamwork, when where student practice on empathy and listening and resolving a conflict. Like teacher can give the problem to the student, when a student do a work in a teamwork, there is a possibility to happen a conflict, here is the teacher can guide him, which is very helpful for them. So emotional intelligence is not just about being nice, it's about handling a emotion wisely, especially in toughest moment, a Pendrop poetry did in this article. Thank you. So next part is discussed by Josie.
Thank you, Manpreet. So I'll be, in this presentation, I'll explore mentorship and sponsorship as a strategic leadership tools based on Andrea's article. So the Andreas embodies servant leadership, which prioritizes the development and well-being of others. So she mentors early career women in academia, sharing her own struggles to normalize challenges. Through empathy and guidance, she helps others navigate gendered systems, creating a more supportive, inclusive environment. Next slide for the informal leadership pipeline. So though not a formal leadership role, Andrea creates an informal leadership pipeline for women. She sponsors them using her influence to advocate for their advancement. She also pushes for cultural change, questioning how leadership is traditionally defined and challenging systemic norms within the university. Next slide. So beyond mentorship, Andrea advocates for institutional reform. She critiques metrics like teaching evaluation and promotion systems, which often reflect patriarchal biases. So she argues that emotional labor like mentoring must be recognized and valued, not dismissed. Next slide. So based on the article, here are the main strategic actions she took or recommended to challenge and change this structure in academia. So she advocated for women using her position as a full professor, offering support that went beyond institutional expectations. She openly shared her struggles with sexism, imposter syndrome, and postnatal depression to normalize these challenges and make them discussable. Her public storytelling helped her break taboos around issues like motherhood, menopause, and mental health. So she criticized the use of student evaluations in promotion decisions, arguing they are biased and reinforce patriarchal norms. So she also called out male-dominated syllabi and panels, challenging the over-reliance on white male voices in academic discourse. So she urged university leadership and HR to revise workloads, especially for new mothers, and make space for compassionate flexibility. She also encouraged men to step up to call out microaggressions, rethink gendered promotion letters, and challenge resistance to EDI. Next, please. So a balanced scorecard is a tool Andrea could use to push for systemic change by formally recognizing mentorship, inclusive teaching, and service work as essential, measurable components of academic success. Next slide. So combining theory and practice creates a very robust strategic approach. These initiatives foster a more equitable academic environment. So next slide. So yeah. So for my reflection, so early in my career, I found myself in a position that strongly mirrors Andrea's reflections in the article. I was the only woman in a male-dominated department, a situation that came with both visible and invisible challenges. So much like Andrea's experiences of being questioned, underestimated, and having to prove her right to belong, I too navigated a workplace culture not built with women in mind. So what made a crucial difference for me was mentorship and sponsorship. So a more senior colleague who recognized my potential actively mentored and advocated for me. So this wasn't just a technical guidance. They offered the kind of strategic support that Andrea describes, helping me to understand how to navigate organizational politics, how to build credibility, and most importantly, how to challenge the status quo without being isolated. That sponsorship helped me rise through the ranks. So as I gained influence, I made it a personal and professional mission to diversify the team. So I became intentional about hiring and supporting women, especially those who reminded me of myself in the early stages of my career. So like Andrea, I saw mentorship as a form of leadership, not a side task, but a central way to create a systemic change. So by the time I left the team, it was no longer a homogeneous department. It had become a diverse, inclusive unit with more women in visible and meaningful roles. So this wasn't an accident. It was a result of strategic mentoring, active sponsorship, and a commitment to shifting the internal culture, just as Andrea calls for. So thank you. And next is Santiago.
Well, we're gonna navigate, of course, the AOR model. So first, we're gonna see how it's the application of this model in the article. So first thing is what's the actions Proteta do in their experience. So the first thing is challenge salary disparity and despite the label difficult. She also demonstrated that provide mentorship and support to female colleagues, especially to help them navigate to the landscape. We know that she tried to do is to erase that patriarchy system, then called the men to step up and challenge microaggressions or gender bias. She used to leave all that microaggressions and bias of fault of the men. So she tried to change all this with the article. But we also can see what the patriarchal system exhibit in the article with the experience that she told us. So first is process of infidelity implicitly favor men and devaluate contributions of often made by women. We can see how they prefer men's over women's in different type of her life. Other the microaggressions and intimidations we just told about it, what she live, what the men do in the system, not only to Prothero but all the colleagues among the university, and also create a physical environment built for men. We can see that those men at the university in the time were only trying to understand and to be pretty in favor to the men and trying to challenge a lot the women and trying to also disqualify them for the things. Now we're going about the observations. What objective facts and feelings did the author notice? So the facts we notice is the students told her she was in the wrong room because why she is, and also they have love of them and get love of her because of her name. Also, her contribute to joint publications were not questions, while all her bands were not. That's the same thing that we were talking about. We observed that men are completely acknowledged of their work, meanwhile women were not. And reasons for denied promotions include research not being mainstream enough and time-consuming career roles and not being measured research. The feelings that we observe is she questioned why do I belong here? She questioned that in every time she was in the university. And at the end she was, but the problem was the men were trying to with their patriarchal system was a pretty difficult environment for her. Feeling pretty worthless when colleagues implied her appointment was due to her husband. And also the last one, labeled difficult and experienced debilitating imposter syndrome. As all of them we could talk about, she suffered about this, trying to feel like a victim when she wasn't actually like trying to be like challenge all this process. So in terms of the reflection, what lesson did she extract for future behavior? So breaking biases, it's important to break biases not only for women. We also reflect like all discussing taboos and prejudices helps to create a safer environment. Need for systemic system in this case patriarchy was normalized, and it's about changing the system, not just making women adapt to it. So men in this moment were trying, or even nowadays are trying to make that women adapt to them and to the system it is, but the idea is to change the whole system and be more inclusive and all of us are part of the system. And the leadership responsibility. She was a great leader, and writing this article, we noticed that people have a role, and rebuilding collaborative environments is really important to us. So next, we're gonna talk about the double loop learning and single loop. So in terms of double loop, you're seeing here, encourage men to challenge their own gender biases and actively call out male aggressions. So she encouraged men, just not like by saying like, okay, they say me this. She also encouraged them like it was not good. She's tried to challenge. Also, she communicates what she's feeling. Also, with the example of what when she said like what we should do is focus on changing women to fit the system. I need help in changing the system so it is not patriarchal and toxic. The idea is that way well telling like it's not only like men delivering instructions or making the system the way they need. It's also about all the people that are in the system. So women are pretty important in these days. All thankfully we are nowadays, or women are more included in the system, but it's still the work to be included as men are is. And in terms of single loop, where we were seeing like were trying to train women to navigate into that toxic cultures. I believe that in my own reflection, I feel like I'm privileged because I born women, but I understand like the importance of women. I born out with my mom, with my sister, so trying to understand that men or women are part of the system. It's not only men trying to enforce women, and being told to be accommodating to male students, sexism, reading, and challenging behavior. This is related to what she lived in the university in the times in the article, what she said. So the sexism and the patriarchal behaviors that they have are really only a single loop because they were delivered only for men to women. But the idea of this is like trying to change all the system, try to be like deliver only like not that men is correct or women are not correct. It's like the 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 sharing of the thoughts of everybody to be like their own system in it. So that's our reflection about how we learn about the article, some theories and leadership aspects that we noticed, and how we include it and reflect on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.